Welcome all. I'm Sarah Baumgardner with AFMA, the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association. For more than 143 years, we have been serving our military community with the support and resources they need to enjoy a financially secure life. And today's topic, we are going to talk about helping veterans transition from service with success. And I have a wonderful guest today, Josh Atkinson. He is a Marine Corps veteran. He's the Chief Strategy Officer for PM Pro Learn. Happy to have you here today, Josh.
Awesome. I am so glad to be here, Sarah. I love our friendship and partnership the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Really, truly appreciate what you're doing because financial stability is so key for everybody, but really our veterans who could learn a lot more, I think, on how to do that successfully.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to talk about today is transitioning from service with success, something that PM Pro Learn and you are passionate about educating members. So let's start with kind of the big question, the problem, right? What is the biggest hurdle you see and PM Pro Learn sees veterans having when they decide to leave the service?
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
The biggest problem obviously depends on what chair you sit in.
Yeah.
But I'm going to probably insult a lot of our veterans out there with this answer. And I think the biggest problem is that the military makes you dependent on the military, right? And I've said this to a few very senior leaders and I get a very awkward chuckle out of them. But the reality is the most mature you're ever going to be in uniform is a college graduate, right? When it comes to life, because you still live at home. Mom and dad tell you what to wear. They give you your allowance every month and you can't even make it bigger if you wanted to. And your whole existence in life is making sure all your other siblings don't piss off mom and dad, right? And don't violate one of the family rules and you get put into timeout, right? I mean, and I say that because there's a lot of intentionality behind why that structure is there,
right?
There is so much stress. There is so much focus on working in that family environment that the military has taken away the need to think about, am I going to be paid? Do I have medical insurance? Do I have life insurance? Do I have health care? Do I have dental care? Do I have all these things? Can I have a house to live in? Do I have food? I mean, all those other nuances are taken care of. So I can just be hyper-focused on life, right? Hyper-focused on growing up, hyper-focused on playing with my friends. I mean, all the things you kind of have as a kid that your parents want to give you that same stability.
Yeah.
But then in transition, right, they give you this 5-day class and a pat on the ass and say, good luck, figure it out. And just like leaving home for the first time, if we don't understand all of the responsibilities that we now have, right, what is financial planning? What is insurance? What is healthcare? What are investments? What is the plan I need to have in place? Where do I want to live, right? What industry do I want to be a part of? What is going to make me feel fulfilled as a human when I'm not at home anymore, when I'm not just tolerating those really idiotic rules that I want to change, but I'm not mom and dad, so I can't change the rules of the house. And when you live under my roof, you're going to follow my rules, right? I mean, so I think all those factors come into play, and I'm hoping some people out there are laughing at this, going I feel just like, I mean, again, I had a very, strong dad at the house too. And it's these are my rules and under my roof, you will follow my rules. Right. So it's the same way in the military. And, for vets in transition, right, you have to understand that you're going to be thrown a lot of responsibility that you may or may not have any preparedness for.
Yeah.
You may not really understand what it's going to take. You don't know and learn these things. And that's part of our passion and sharing this passion with you is how do we educate and empower vets 2, 3, 5 years before they have to leave home so that when they leave home, they're ready for it, right? They've got the foundation that they need. They've got the credibility they need. They've got the understanding of what this is going to be like, which again, I can't do it for you until you do it, but we can at least give them so much more to be relevant and to be ready.
To plan. Yeah. I mean, it's a great point. It's a great kind of analogy. And I love how you put that. And there is a bit of a chuckle factor to it, but there's a lot of seriousness in it as well. And one thing that I think really stands out in something that you said is that structure in the military exists for a reason, right? It exists so that that service member can be hyper focused on the mission at hand, right? Because that mission a lot of times is a life or death situation, right? It's the readiness of that. So that structure exists for a reason, right? We're going to take away you having to worry about where you're going to live and how you're going to get paid and what you're going to get paid and where you're going to eat and what you're even going to wear every day. We're going to take away those things. And then all of a sudden, you now have to make all of these choices. And preparing for that, right, can't be done in 5 days before you leave. It has to be done ahead of time. And I know that's something that, PM Pro Learner is really passionate about, something that I'm passionate about and educating as well. So what do you think a way to overcome this, right? What are some tangible things that a service member can do to prepare better, to overcome that? I know this will come, right? I'm going to leave mom and dad one day. What can I do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first step, and this goes back to my education and change management, is the awareness factor, right? And I think that awareness doesn't get talked about until TAP, right? Until I get in that transition class when I have to get out, right? And I just talked to a colonel yesterday who's getting out after 30 years, who really doesn't want to be getting out, right? I think that's the other part too, is that you have to realize that you will be leaving at some point. You will be out of this family at some point, like it or not. And you may or may not get to choose when that happens. And it may not be on your own terms, right? Hey, that's what happened to me, right? Like I did not want to stop being a Marine, right? And it still has some impacts because of how I had to leave the service, right? So you have to first understand that it's going to happen. Right. The second thing you have to understand is that there isn't a good training program to help you get ready. Right. Mom and dad are not going to take care of your retirement. Right. And if you get out before retirement, they really don't care how well and successful you're going to be afterwards. They care if you're unemployed because it hurts their pocketbook. But beyond that, the family doesn't follow with you. Right. You have to build that tribe, that family to go along with you. Right. The next awareness is that your military schools and all of your accolades and your badges and your tabs and your medals and all the cool stuff you've done, nobody cares about anymore.
Yeah.
Right? They don't translate. I cannot take a Purple Heart and say, how does that make me money as a business?
Right.
Right? Like that doesn't go with you. No, and I gave a presentation at Staffing World, thanks to Therese Baker, and I talked about hiring veteran talent, right? And everyone in the room was so supportive of vets. We want to hire vets. And I was like, okay, so what do you think about vets? And like, oh, they're disciplined and they're courageous and they're heroes. I said, thank you so much for that. So what does a hero make when they work for your company? And it's like, I don't know either, right? So you have to find a way to bridge that false perception divide, that misunderstanding where I have people that want to help, but they don't know how to help. And I have people that want to work, but don't know what they can do makes you money. I mean, companies run on profit, right? Like you have to be able to convince that company that I'm value added to your organization, which I think is where our passion as a company comes into play is, look, industry certifications can make you more effective in uniform and you get to take them with you when you leave, right? I can call myself a project manager, not an infantry company commander, right? I can call myself a cybersecurity professional. I can call myself or call myself whatever that credibility is that I go obtain. Right now, we teach project management, right? PMP, Agile, Lean, Six Sigma. Huge fan of those. And I think they really help create the leadership and culture we need now in the military. And on the outside, there's 1.2 to 1.6 million jobs. But beyond that, you can go into HR certifications. I can go to cybersecurity certifications. I can go into, all these other realms of things that will make me more effective today while I'm still in uniform. But now I get to take those with me when I leave, right? So, I use a foreign language analogy of becoming a foreign orphan, where if I wanted to hire a professional who might be the best ever at what they do, and they speak a language that I don't understand, I'm probably not going to hire them. Plain and simple, right? Not because they're not able, not because they're not capable, but because I just can't relate to or converse with them in a meaningful manner in the world of business, right? And it's not that English isn't the language, it's that military acronyms don't translate and military words don't have the same definition. So certifications are a way to, I think, take veteran capability and give you credibility and relatability, right? And, that credibility is, I have something that they can identify with. I have, when I see a Ranger tab on somebody, I go, that's a credibility of who they are and what they can do. When I see a professional certification on somebody, that's a credibility of what they can do. And the language piece allows me then to converse and relate with them using shared stories, shared terminology, shared understanding of where you've been and what you've done, right? And I think that's the secondary huge impact that we're trying to create, is giving veterans something they can take with them that creates open doors, creates opportunity, to where it isn't a cliff you fall off in transition, right? You're not being kicked out the nest and told to fly, right? You're given a ladder, to be able to step down on the way.
Something tangible, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about, is professional certifications as a tangible measure of the translation of what you did in service to a professional setting. This certification will let you know that I know how to do X, Y, and Z. Even though I think there's a lot of times miscommunication between service members and organizations trying to hire, exactly how you said, is because they're not speaking the same language, right? And they're not talking in the same, they're completing the same task, but they're talking in different languages. And so being able to understand that and then come away with a tangible thing to say, let me translate my language of what I've been doing, and I know I can do this, and I have a proven track record that says, right, I have these accolades and I have these medals that say that I can do these things, but let me translate it into what you're looking for, what your business world's looking for. And it's that translation that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but can make a really big difference. It can get your foot in the door, right? It can get your resume looked at, as opposed to a bunch of gobbledygook that nobody understands, right? They don't understand what these military acronyms are. They know you're a hero and they want to help you, but they don't know where to put you in their organization.
Correct. And I think that's, the translation piece is huge. And I think it's beyond kind of the awareness talk about of what capabilities do we really have as a veteran, right? And even if I take like a motor T truck driver, right? 4 years of service, maybe an E4 and an E5, and he may go look at a job as like a truck driver. But, in talking to teams, like, yeah, I may have been a truck driver in the military, but I was probably leading convoys, which means I'm also doing operational logistical planning. I'm also having to develop my entire team and make sure that they have the credibility and capability to operate in the environment I'm going to go into. I'm doing intelligence analysis and threat assessments. I'm doing maintenance and equipment upgrades. And I'm also having to make sure that everyone on my team is not overweight, is doing physical fitness, is paying their bills, going to the hospital. I mean, like, it's way beyond, can you drive a truck, right? I mean, yet when we leave, I think veterans start saying, I only have the credibility of my MOS.
Right.
Because that's what we're told. And it's like, you're not, right? Like you're
not limited to that.
No, but you have to know what you want to be doing and how to call it that new thing, right? And I've had a lot of conversations recently about sales. Right. And the job I never wanted was sales. And now I do sales. Right. I mean, so it's humorous, but the best training I have been given in sales was a stint I did with human intelligence.
Yeah.
And guys are like, how is human intelligence sales? Right. Like, why would, so I would tell you, I want to hire, if I got a sales guy strategist, I'm hiring a human intelligence guy.
Yeah.
Human intelligence is about identifying people inside organizations with placement and access to the high value target, influence decision makers, identifying what they're motivated by and interested in, and using them to craft a messaging campaign to cause someone or something or some organization to do what I want them to do. Sales.
Like, you're selling.
Right? Like, so that understanding the human targeting cycle, like, hey, identifying who's the insider, what do I want to influence them to go do for my organization? What message do I need to give them so when they go walk in to have the next conversation, they've got the ammunition that they need to go have that conversation to influence the person that they're going to talk to, right? So I mean, that has fueled everything we've done with PM ProLearn, which is let me find a veteran inside an organization, understand how to use their benefits, how to use their resources, what is a project, spool them up, make them excited, give them the messaging campaign that they need to go tell all their friends about it, and
Sell
bring them
themselves.
back. I
Yeah.
was like, sales, but I never in my mind would have taken my job as a task force XO in human intelligence
Mm-hmm.
and said I was the deputy director of marketing and sales. Like, not a clue.
Not a clue, right? And then that kind of goes to, right, what you don't know, right?
Absolutely.
And so sometimes having somebody give you that insight, something that PM ProLearn is doing, and kind of your vision and helping military personnel transition out of that space into civilian sector, is giving them that vision, right? And narrowing them in to say, have you thought about this? Think about it like this. And I think from a financial aspect, right, professional certifications also give you leverage when you're negotiating your salary, when you now have to say, okay, I have to put a value on what I do. The military told me what I was going to get paid. I get paid the exact same amount as everybody else in my rank, right? And now I have to put a value on what I can do. And having a professional certification can allow you to ask for more, to know your actual worth in that space. It's what you guys are helping in that vision of being able to help that service member as they're transitioning.
Absolutely. And I think there's a caveat I'll mention with this is that, one, there's no silver bullet, right? Business is a relational transaction, just like dating, right? And I had a veteran call me the other day and he's like, hey, what cert should I get to be the most marketable? And I said, that's a great question. I was like, let me ask you another question. What do you need to do to become attractive to every female on the planet? I was like, you're kind of going the same route here. Like, hey, what cert do I get to where everyone's going to be like, oh, you're the hottest thing ever, right? And
yeah,
I've started using this like hot or not analogy, right? The website Hot or Not, where your resume is either hot or not, right? And the recruiter is like the forward observer for the enemy, right? Recruiters do great things, but I call them the forward observer for the enemy because all they're looking at is their boss said, go find me someone that looks hot like this. And if they're not that, they're not hot. And they look at your resume for about 2.5 seconds and go, hot, not.
Yeah.
Hot.
So true.
So if I want to know, back to human intelligence, how to upgrade my weapon system, how do I upgrade my capabilities so that my resume carries the weight of influence? I have to know what that evaluator is looking for. I have to know what they find attractive, right? And I think certifications kind of fit into two categories. One is going to be character, right? What you learn in the pursuit of a certification will give you skills you can take with you everywhere. But that doesn't mean that the company you want to work for is going to give you the credit of attractiveness because you have it.
Right.
Right. And I think that's kind of the misnomer too. Like I want veterans to understand that certs can open doors. Certs can give you credibility. Certs can and likely do lead to higher salaries and better job opportunities. But they don't guarantee that. And if the job field you really want to go into is not directly connected to that cert, it may not mean anything at all. Right. So again, I think they're powerful. I think they do so much to give you confidence and relatability and teach you the language and all these things, but they don't guarantee 6 figures. They don't guarantee anything. And the other side is, even if they did, you may not want the job with the 6 figures, right? So the life attributes part, which is also a thing veterans need to learn, is you have to decide what kind of a world you want to work in, right? Do you want to be responsible anymore? Do you want to be on the hook of decision-making? Do you want to be the top tier of the team? Or you just want the freedom to kind of do whatever you want?
Right.
Do I not need to make money? I call it like, in hunting analogy. Am I killing an elk because I want stability of a high-paying job and not have to worry about it? Or if I don't need money because I'm retired and VA disabled and I can do whatever I want. So I just want the freedom to kind of do whatever I want. And I'm going to go quail hunting, and it's a little and small, and maybe I get an odd job here and there, but I don't really care because I just want the freedom to do whatever the heck I want. I mean, you have to start describing your life differently And that's then when you start looking at, hey, is the cert I'm going after, or is what I'm pursuing in line with my mission goal, hunting this animal and finding out what this company finds attractive, or am I getting it because I just want to learn, or
Right.
what, right? It's, again, that's what it's complex. It's not
That's the point. Yeah.
one-to-one, right? And finances, back to your profession, right? Having that 3-6 months of buildup lets me have some standoff distance to sometimes let the dust settle a little bit, right? To where I'm not, oh shit, I'm about to be homeless. I'll get that job. And you're like, I didn't want that job. I needed a job. So we start panicking. We start pursuing, certifications sometimes that don't connect with where we want to go.
Right.
Aren't open the door we want to open because we have nothing and we're grasping at everything. And that, I think, really ties into our passion, which I started with, of 3, 5, 10 years out.
Yeah.
Let's start teaching, emotional, financial, professional transition skills. So you build that foundation, get certified while you're in uniform, become more effective in uniform, and have a foundation. So when I transition, it's just the next step.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a panic.
No. And right now, 1 year out, like, oh shit.
Panic.
Yeah.
Panic.
I want 3 to 6 months of savings in 3 to 6 months. Are you not going to eat? I mean, like, you can't build that up in 3 to 6 months, right? I can't have 100% of 3 to 6 months of bills covered in 3 to 6 months. Like, it takes 3 to 5 years to build that.
Right.
Getting your PMP takes 6 weeks or longer, right? And the funding takes 6 weeks. So the minimum in the Army right now, it's going to take you about 3 months to get a certification. And if I'm in TOP and going to transition programs and my VA appointments and, oh shit, when am I going to study for? I mean, like, I know I did that for me in my own journey, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
There's enough stressors going on in transition. Why am I trying to upgrade my weapon in the firefight rather than hunting as a professional?
Yeah. Right. So for those veterans that are kind of falling into this space and they're thinking, okay, this is me. I'm, thinking maybe in the next year or 2 years or 3 years about getting out. What are some resources that are available, to help them? Right.
Me. So joking aside, I mean, we are working on this class called the Empowered Transition. And it is geared for those 3 to 5 years out, right? And you're working on us. I'm super excited, next year to start rolling this thing out. Soldier for Life just did a 7-part podcast on the same series with us, which I know we wanted to have you on and just missed that window. But you have to start understanding it, right? So 3 years out, hit me up, go on our YouTube channel if you want. Maybe we can drop a link into here. It's a video recorded called the Empowered Transition right now. And it starts talking about emotionally, and professionally, how do we start identifying who we are, learning about the process, getting my family involved to start mapping out our life requirements, and start exploring and brainstorming some of those. Where do I really want to live? Like, do I really want to be home? Go visit those places. Take some time to go do that stuff, right? Professionally, start looking into certifications, right? Because if I'm 3 years out, 5 years out, I can use Army CA to go take a class and try that industry out, right? I was talking to, Candy Tillman, had a post about project management skills and how it was great to learn it, but not everybody needs it. And I was like, why don't we, instead of identifying the industry I want to go into, just go take a class and taste the industry. Yeah. Because it may sound great. And then took a class in it and go, that was miserable. Well, then, you don't ever want to do that, right? One of our students actually is like, I'm learning a lot in this class. I've learned in this class. I don't ever want to be a project manager. Right. I have no problem with that, right? Because now you're at least learning something and you've decided on where I don't want to be, right? Where you don't want to go is just as important as knowing where you do want to go. But again, those take time. And for soldiers, there's $4,000 every single year that gets flushed if you don't use it. I mean, so at least try it, taste it, check it out. Professionally, I'd say talk with you, right? What's the resource? Go talk to Sarah Baumgartner, right? Like, bring that financial planning class to your unit and start learning how to put a savings plan together. Start learning about your TSP, start learning about investments and where to start putting your money, right? You're the E1 right after boot camp. Guess what? Now you need to start learning how to be an adult. So let's go learn Adulting 101, which is how do you balance a checkbook? I mean, like, right. Do stuff like that, build that financial plan, build that projection, talk to my friend Craig Horseman if you want to about life insurance, right? Or Jeff O'Neill. Hey, what's term life? Well, I got SGLI. Great. And that's going to die when you get out. So what do you want to have in place before you get out? Right. Your wardrobe's out there, right? Salute the Suit's fantastic. Love me some A-Rod. How do I dress like an adult? Because I have no idea. I mean, just start learning, right?
Yeah.
Come to our class, listen to this stuff, right? Hit me up on LinkedIn, have a conversation, bring me to your unit to give a class on the empowered transition as a lunch and learn. Like bring Sarah to your command and talk about financial preparedness and insurance and investing, just to learn the basics, right? Not to become an expert at it, but just we need people to start reaching out. I think TAP is great. SFL TAP is great. You can't really touch them until you're a year out.
Right.
I love, Alicia Mock and Onward to Opportunity and some of the stuff that they're doing. And I volunteer with them, but you can't touch them until you're 6 months out.
Right.
Hire Our Heroes like Eric Putt and Adela, doing great work with Hire Our Heroes, in the regions that are there. And you can't get into the Scope Bridge until you're about 12 months out. I mean, so all of the resources that are available are only touchable about 12 months out.
In a
right?
year.
So the resources that you want to get 3, 5, 10 years out, like you're looking at them right here, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it, right? They're building your network,
Here it is.
reaching out, invite me down, right? I'm trying to break the boundaries on bases by giving my empowered transition class.
Yeah.
Because we're a trainer, I get blocked at the door. Like, you're trying to solicit soldiers. Like, no, it's not about that at all.
Yeah. Well, and I think what PM Pro Learn is doing with the empowered transition is talking and acknowledging that there's an emotional component. That's kind of the start of it, is to emotionally realize, what do you want to do? Understand the loss, right? When you leave the military, what your family's going to lose, right? From this emotional component. And then that translates very easily into, okay, if the financial component of, these are all the things financially that I'm going to lose. And in order to be stable and secure, I need to replace these things. Same thing, right? I'm going to lose my uniform. Something as basic as that. I'm going to lose what I wear every day. So what do I now wear, right? Shout out to, A-Rod does great with what you guys do, in, putting suits onto people. This is now what you're going to wear. So it's kind of a whole transition of baby steps to get to that end result, so that you're not having to scramble, like you said, all these great programs, but they're 12 months out, they're 6 months out, doing it a little bit ahead of time. So, I want to just thank you so much for being here today, for talking about this, for the passion that what you have and what PM Pro Learn is doing. And we're going to drop in Josh's LinkedIn address here to connect with him. Like he said, please connect with him. We'll drop that in the chat. We'll drop it right here. Connect with him. Awesome. Find out how to get him to talk in front of your soldiers or your Marines or your airmen, whoever, and start the process, right? This is, it's kind of leadership at its finest, is we have to lead, right? And that's
an uncomfortable conversation, right? You mentioned the uniform and losing your uniform, right? And I think so much of our identity is on your chest, right? In the military. Yep. And I think that's the hard thing to get over, is that the minute I walk in that 2 seconds of hot or not, right, that we do, or Ariel calls it the 7-second rule, I can be sized up, right? And I'm, who I am, what my job is, how long I've been in, about how old I am, where I've been, where I've done it. And it's just there, right? And we speak the same language, right? We have this whole unique culture that we were part of, which I think is intentional. We get birthed at boot camp and we're given a whole new identity of veteran. Right. And it's on purpose that we strip away everything of what everybody was beforehand and make them a team in this new environment. Right. And your uniform is such a part of that, right? That I can walk in and be comfortable. I can walk in with knowledge and confidence. And then when you leave, it's not like you're putting on a suit. It's like you look like you walk in naked. Yeah. Right. It's like that being on stage in your underwear kind of a feeling, going like, And I think that interview is so hard for guys, because it's like, you're like, I don't know what I am. Like, I don't know, like, I have nothing to show for it. I have nothing that can relate. And I think just realizing that feeling is going to happen, and it's different, for spouses and family members, which I know you've experienced yourself, is like, hey, I can't just walk on base and have my family being a known name, right? If you're a command senior, enlisted wife, or a senior officer's wife, or a warrant officer, you get to walk around, like it or not, with a level of credibility and respect because of who your spouse is, right? Yep. Male or female, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
That's how it works. And that's gone, right? Like, if I go to a non-veteran area, like we moved up to Delaware, great, friendly people, not a whole lot of vets. And you go to church and like, I don't know how to have a conversation with anybody about it. Like, my wife saw the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
How do you relate to other people here at church? It's hard. And we have to just prepare again, like going into a combat zone. What's the environment going to be like? What's the weather going to be like? What's the interaction of the people going to be like? Who are the threats? What are the opportunities? I mean, just going through that and being ready, right? And having your fallout plans. Like, hey, I've got friends to call when it hits the fan.
Yeah.
I've got a support group that I have to build because I can't just go to the family readiness office and have instant resources at my fingertips. And, I can't go to the commissary anymore because there's nowhere to go on base. And now I got to find a hospital and this one sucks, but there's no one to call to get advice on how to fix it. I mean, just like you really are kind of on your own unless you choose to live right around a military base and you're going back into like the defense industrial sector with a bunch of veterans, right? So I think it's just that like it's going to happen, right? It's going to come, and we need to let people become aware of it and then teach them better so that they are more able, right? And I think that's where, even those coming into the military, I'm not going to go political on are you a snowflake or not, but there are some life skills that are not taught, I think, growing up as much anymore.
Yeah.
That make transition harder, right? Afterwards, because we didn't learn it beforehand. It was given to us when we were in without really teaching you about it. Mm-hmm. And then you leave now at 30, at 40 or older, and you may not have ever had to do these things. There was a senior enlisted who had never bought a house. He lived in base housing his entire career. He's never had to rent a house in 30 years in uniform or beforehand. And now he's leaving going, I actually have to get a house. I don't know how to turn the electricity on. I've never had to turn the water on. I'm not like, and that to me is an extreme because obviously like, I've bought houses, I lived off base, but for some they don't. So as an extreme, like, hey, by the way, how do you turn on power at a rental home?
Right.
Like, wow. We don't teach that. You just kind of figure it out. So
right. No, and it's great points. Well, and it also, you mentioned earlier that, there's $4,000 every year that you can spend to get a certification while you're in service, while you're still in uniform, and you still have the safety net around you of everything that you can go try it out, right? Go try this industry out and find out, this is what did I learn? I learned that I did not want to be this, but now I know that, right? It's not I don't know what I don't know anymore. It's no, I do know that I don't want to do this. So what do I want to do next? All right, well, let me try something else for, a certification. So it kind of all, it all comes back in full circle. And it's such a good conversation to have. And, I love and I thank the mission of what PM ProLearn is doing, is trying to have these conversations before a year out, right? To have this conversation when you're still in uniform, you still have the time to ask experts, to ask around, to find out what you want to do. And you can do that, through certifications. And at least that gives you some sort of leg to stand on. So when you walk in to a place, you've got at least some sort of commonality or a better understanding of emotionally what you want to do after service. So thank you. Thank you for these conversations and for putting this together. You're such a wonderful partner, and your passion is just, you can see it, that this is a true passion in trying to find and help service members.
Yeah, no, I thank you, Sarah. I think your passion too, again, your own journey, I think has fueled your passion just like mine did.
Yep.
Like, why do you care so much about this? Because my transition sucked. Like I got to see what this did for me. And I think the other reality too, and this is hard for vets, is the active duty people are not your best mentors.
Right.
Right. And if you're mentoring and getting advice on transition from other active duty service members, it's like asking your big brother and big sister what it's like to not live at home when they still live at home. Yeah. Right. They just don't know. Now there's some that have been, act out, became a civilian, came back in again. Okay. There's rarities. Yeah. Like they're probably great resources going, this is what it was like. But even then the world's probably changed since they left the military and the resources are different. But you need to connect with people outside of the uniform, right? Fellow vets that work in industry and start talking to them. Like what's this industry like, right? What is that industry like? What cert should I pursue? How do I use my benefits? I talk to soldiers all the time. Again, the 4K we're talking about is strictly an Army benefit. Unfortunately, for the Navy and Marine Corps, the Army's better right now, which is really hard to say because I'm a Marine. But the Army program is great. The Coast Guard has a program actually that's even bigger than the Army's. They get $4,500 every year for certs and an additional $4,500 for college. They get $9,000 every year as a Coastie. So if you did not know that as a Coastie, you have $9,000 every year to pay for
Amazing.
education. It's amazing. Enlisted airmen have $4,500 through the Air Force Cool program, and we trick the system and we can get every airman PMP. We call it CAPM for all with a free upgrade. So if you are an airman looking for PMP, we can help you get there through Air Force Cool. But service members don't even know about their own educational benefits, right? Soldiers don't even know what PA is. They don't know what certifications are. And I will put a huge shameless plug in for why project management, right? If you want to start somewhere in a business certification, get your project manager cert, because every business cares about two things: customer satisfaction and profit.
Sure.
Right? Like every business exists, even AFMA out there exists to satisfy customers and make money, right? It's not shameless. We're a capitalistic society. That's just the way it goes, right? Well, every project manager is hyper-focused on customer satisfaction and profit, right? Because my responsibility as the PM is to satisfy the needs of the project, whether it's an internal or an external customer or stakeholder, and to do it within or better than the budget and resources that I was given. Right. So everything I do is focused on customer satisfaction and profit, and I have to do it with a level of quality and efficiency and fidelity in order to get that done. So those are where the skills you learn. And while in uniform, every veteran cares about the same two things. We just don't call them those things. We call it satisfying commander's intent and resource management. Right. I have to make my CO happy, and I have to do it within the budget I was given. I only have so many people, so many Marines, so many trucks, so many weapons, so many bullets, and I have to go solve the mission that the CO wanted me to, right? It's the same overlap of skills, and everyone on every team and every business is impacting that mission, right? Everything you do, Sarah, is still aligning with growth, right? Satisfying customers and bringing in money, profit, right? You're satisfying your clients, you're satisfying your people the same way by educating and empower them in order to achieve the mission of stabilizing and growing a company, which aligns to customer satisfaction and profit. I mean, like, it's the same skill. So whether you're an analyst, whether you're a marketeer, whether you're an infantryman, whether you're a loggy, whether you're an intel guy or a commo, everything that we do in the military and everything you do in business is aligned to those two strategic objectives, right? Satisfying customers and commanders' intent and doing it within the budget and resources that we have, right? And optimizing those and improving those things, right? So, you know, again, I think I've heard it from a lot of people, man, what I learned in project management was effective. I didn't necessarily need to be my PMP or take the test, but the skills made me a better leader, a better employee, a better service member. And that really is our passion, right? You know, like Agile by E5, Lean 6 by E6, PMP by E7, right? Like these make you better in uniform, and they make you a better teammate out of uniform, right? So if you want to start somewhere and don't know where to start out with project management, and then move on into other things.
Awesome.
Sorry.
And
shameless plug, but that's why.
And we've dropped in the chat. So in the comment box, we've got links to all of these, to Josh's LinkedIn, to the PMP certification program. So you can check out those links right there. And you've just made some really great points that hopefully somebody out there is thinking, gosh, I need to do this, right? I need to be proactive and do this. And I need to talk to Josh. So we'll wrap it up there, but I want to say thank you so much for being here, for having this conversation, for continuing to have the conversation. I'm Sarah Bumgardner, and that'll be our live for today. If you would like more information about AFMA and financial education resources, of course, you can find that at our AFMA subscription found on this QR code here to get more information. But I thank everybody for joining today. I thank you again, Josh, and hope you have a great day.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sarah, so much. I'm excited for what we're doing together, and I look forward to doing some more future events on financial planning and risk management through you as we reignite that, you know, treating life as a project series that we started earlier this year. So thank you for everything you do, Sarah. Thank you for AFMA and the partnership. So awesome to be here.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.